Good afternoon. My name is James Swart, and I'm the Educational Program Manager for the Consumer Brands Association. We're excited you've joined us for today's Industry Solutions session. This series provides insights for CPG companies presented by premier partners of the Consumer Brands Association. I'm excited to be joined by Marc Mathieu, Senior Vice President, Strategic Customer Transformation and Innovation for Salesforce today. Prior to joining Salesforce as Samsung's CMO, Marc successfully led global brand love to record highs after the Note 7 crisis. At Unilever, as Global Chief Marketing Officer, he was responsible for the marketing strategy Crafting Brands for Life, an initiative to build brands with purpose that improves the lives of the people they serve. As CMO at Coca-Cola, he is credited with Coke's turnaround of the Open Happiness strategy and the Coke Side of Life global campaign. During today's session, Marc will share how Salesforce is transforming the consumer goods industry by digitizing their trade promotion management processes. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. I've been asked to remind all attendees that various state and federal laws prohibit the exchange of information among competitors regarding matters pertaining to price, refusals to deal, market divisions, tying relations, and other topics that might infringe upon antitrust regulations, and that no exchange or discussion will be tolerated during today's session. We've saved time at the end for audience Q&A. If you have a question during today's session, please submit it using the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen. Marc, we're so excited to have you join us and share your expertise with our attendees today. Over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, James, and welcome everybody, and then thank you for joining. Indeed, I just wanted over the next 15, 20 minutes to share with you a few of the observations that we have made at Salesforce across the consumer goods industry, on especially after the last 2 years of in a way forced transformation that we've been through due to the changing nature of the beast, basically, by the hour, by the minute, as we went through COVID and still are battling with it. And so really looking at what are the learnings in terms of what's key to unlocking digital transformation for revenue growth. So if you go to the next page, clearly, I mean, you've all heard that quote, maybe you read that book, but this whole idea that change is a constant and is a necessity. And we've all lived it firsthand over the last 2 years. There was a fundamental need to adapt to all those shifts across the consumer goods value chain that basically made us realize all that the past strategies, the past learning experiences very often were in a way obsolete in front of this new and ever-changing reality. If you go to the next page, clearly, I think that we've all our own experiences of how consumer goods market radically transformed, and how what used to be pockets of digitalization before became a digital first reality, across all the touch points, all the route to markets, suddenly because there was no other opportunity than being digital first and sometimes digital only. It forced everyone from the consumer to the retailer, to the distributor, to the worker, as we know. I'm sure most of you, as I speak right now, are in their kitchen or in their bedroom or in their home office, all of which has become the new workplace. So we've seen how everything has radically transformed. And let's be very honest, I think that we only see the tip of the iceberg, because we've been adapting, but the benefit of a crisis like what we've gone through the last 2 years is more into the aftermath. At the beginning of COVID, a few months into the pandemic, I wrote a blog for Salesforce called From Breakdown to Breakthrough, building on my experiences of managing brands in crisis. You mentioned the Note 7 recall. I had unfortunately also experienced the biggest recall ever in Coca-Cola's history in Belgium when I was general manager, or at least when I was appointed general manager on day 2 of this recall to manage the way out of this. And at that time, we used that vision from breakdown to breakthrough, and how do you create breakthrough for after the crisis? I think what we're seeing right now is only the tipping point of the iceberg. If we go to the next page, I don't know how many of you have started to go deep into basically how a lot of things are about to change. Digital is not only everywhere, but digital life as we embark in Web 3 is actually even more disruptive than it has been. And I'm not talking about, using cryptos. I'm not even talking about NFTs. I'm thinking about the way Web3 is going to revolutionize the way the internet works and the way people interact within the internet. If you think about it, Web1 was all about, having access to information. It was the read web. Web2 was the read and write web. You could not only read, but also share and participate. But in Web3, everybody is going to be involved and become an owner of its own identity and its own life in the digital world. But that's not the topic of today. So what we need all to make sure, next slide, is that we look back and we say, what have we learned from the crisis and what matters for our brands, for our businesses? And the reality, I like to say, before COVID, there was always in a company a little bit of something digital, and some departments were ahead, some departments were behind because of the silos in corporations. You didn't have a digitalization that was uniform across the business. And importantly, the digitalization, the digital transformation was not the first and foremost priority of the CEO. It was the priority of the CIO and of the different department heads. Suddenly you realize that digitalizing the whole route to market across all touch points was absolutely critical. Starting with what was the biggest challenge when COVID hit, which is companies realizing that they were not able to supply the products that people wanted in the quantity and in the places that they wanted. So this whole idea of, in order not to waste opportunities with your customers, with your shoppers, when they cannot find the product that they're used to. The number here, 75%, is staggering, of people frustrated by that reality, forced to unlock speed and agility, for the teams and create much more digitally enabled agile operations. The second one, which we saw as a critical one, was this whole idea that indeed there was across the route to market, there was an amazing amount of inefficiencies in both in-store and digital execution in the trade spend. So the idea of integrating the route to market and thinking about how to drive business growth through a much more integrated way, from planning to execution, and even after to servicing B2B customer, was another area where I think everybody realized there was a transformation imperative. The third one, which is one of the ones that's to me the reality that we've all had to grasp and deal with, is this whole idea of data. And depending on where you sit, depending on the local regulations, finding a way to actually make sure that you use the data that you have, and very often corporations, companies, brands say today they are data rich, but sometimes they're insight poor. It's I always make it very personal. It's not because you know a lot of things about a friend of yours that you are going to embarrass that person in a dinner conversation in front of their friends. And you need to treat them as a person with his own privacy and make sure that you win their trust again and again and again over time. And very often when we navigate that data, abundance, we lose track of the fact that data should be used, with, from human beings to human beings. Next point was the whole consumer experience. We saw indeed that people during COVID in particular were in search for, a new personalized relationship and experience with a brand. I have a personal story here. It's not a consumer goods example, but when COVID started, I knew I needed to continue to exercise and I couldn't go to the gym anymore. And I saw in a TV show actually a water rower, beautiful in wood. I really liked it. I thought it would be very good in my house, but I thought there's no way I'm going to get this one. And I would have traded off for any other brand. I would have probably traded off for a different machine. But I called the company and it didn't answer right away. And I thought they're probably, closed or busy or whatever. They called me back within 2 minutes. Not only they called me back within 2 minutes, but they connected me with a local distributor who was also closed, but who was still servicing, their stock and trying to make delivery. This guy connected me with their distributor. Net, within 2 hours, I had an assembled water rower delivered to my house. The brand is Water Rower. I've told that story, I don't know how many times. And that has completely changed my relationship to a brand in the sports world that I was not using before. And then the last thing, which is something very close to Salesforce heart, which is digital HQ. The whole idea that we're never going back and that we need to build a workforce for the future. Most people, especially the younger generations, are not going to go back to work, to office the way it used to be. And by the way, they now can not only work from home, multitask, but at the same time be more effective and more efficient than they ever were before. And that's proven by statistics. People have not lost but gained in productivity by working from home. So all of the above, is the 5 key pillars of digital transformation that we've seen happening at an accelerated pace over the last 2 years. And we've seen it with several of our clients, and some of them have privileged or prioritized some of those pillars. So if you go to the next page, for instance, talking about enabling agile operation, we saw clearly that a company like Unilever, embraced the opportunity of COVID, or the challenge, I should say, of COVID, to totally digitize their supply chain, to fast track both, their delivery, but also their innovation, and enabling their team members to much better understand the challenges that their customers were facing real time and their requirements, and therefore be able to answer to their needs and provide a much more personalized experience across the board. And you all know how much, as a multi-brand, multi-category CPG company, their business and therefore the supply chain is complex. So enabling that agile operation to minimize the loss of revenue opportunity, revenue growth was critical. On the integration of the route to market, we saw a customer, a partner like PepsiCo really focus on the imperative to transform their business so that they could serve their distributor channels much better, especially during those troubled times. And so they completely, transformed their retail execution operations to validate their whole planogram compliance, and in a way it helped them scale the way they worked with their channel customers with a much more modern technology than they had pre-COVID. On consumer data, Mau San Miguel, which operates across beer, water, refreshment, etc., knew that they had the need to integrate with external websites to be able to, on one hand, be much more consistent in their messaging and be able to provide content in a much more consistent and effective way, but also at the same time they wanted to track data in real time and build a reporting platform so that they could be much more knowledgeable about email opening and all kinds of KPIs in order to know their customer better and serve their customer better. And by developing that strong digital marketing content governance in those very difficult time, they actually went much further ahead than they ever been before in using and leveraging their data. And very effective. I'm not going to share numbers, but the numbers in terms of metrics, in terms of page visit, customer retention, click-through rate, etc., was just amazing. We worked with L'Oréal again throughout the last few years in helping them digitally transform to really unify the commerce experience. So that's on the the consumer experience transformation and connecting all the dots, so that they could across brands use data to provide an enhanced personalized customer experience. And in the world of beauty in particular, personalization of the experience is the name of the game. So doing that with data and technology was essential. And last but not least, on the workforce of the future, I could take several examples, but Cisco, for instance, as a global food distributor, needed to basically integrate their order to cash experience, and again they did that with a platform that equipped their drivers with the ability to become sellers. So really working, as we like to say, from anywhere. You see all of this and you hear me talk about it and you say, well, that's a lot and that's too much. And if you go to the next slide, which I think you have, yeah, the big challenge for me is not just to do it, but to prioritize it, and to prioritize basically, where you are and where you want to go next. And I think that the importance, depending on the various companies, to be very clear about what's your journey. You're going to do all of these 5 transformation if you have not done them, but which one is going to be the biggest bang for the buck? Which one is the easiest one, the most within arm's reach, within to create a quick win? Which one is more adequate for your brand or your company culture? So the question of prioritization is and planning for this is absolutely critical, and that's one of the things that we like to work on. Is not just to have a vision of the transformation, as well as what we like to call the different methods of that transformation across the value chain, but also have a clear prioritization with very clear deliverables on a short-term, like yearly basis, so that you really know what you're trying to accomplish, what the deliverable is supposed to be within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. One thing we thought we would do is share with you an example from someone who is actually leading digital transformation in one of the partner companies that we work with. Vitaly Potlatov is actually the head of digital transformation at the AB InBev, and It's about a 15-20 minutes talk, which comes from an interview that we did recently with him, and we cut the interview part to just keep the Vitaly explaining the journey that he's been through, his company has been through, and we thought it would be valuable to share that. So if you can roll the video, please, and then afterwards we'll be happy to come back, and James and I to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm honored to be invited for that event and share our experience with trade promotion management tool, but also I would like to share with you guys what digital transformation journey we had and how we connect dots together. So Sunil gonna share a screen right now. Yeah, so my name is Vital. I'm a digital transformation director, and I'm responsible for digital transformation at AB InBev Europe. And in the next 10-20 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through our digital transformation, what role TPM product plays in that ecosystem. So Sunil, if you go to the next slide, before I'm gonna jump to next slide, please, as well. Before I'm going to jump to TPM, I would like just to share with you guys that we've been doing digital transformation in the last, let's say, 8 years by building 3 big ecosystems. One ecosystem, ABI, we call it ABI Cloud. So that ecosystem is focused on sales representatives or sales teams as end users. And we transform end-to-end processes that are linked to all experiences that our sales teams perform. And of course, strategy here is to digitalize all internal processes to enable sales effectiveness, lower cost, and better service level through data-driven decisions. And on the next slides, I'm going to show to you how we drive that. So second ecosystem focused on everything that is linked to end-to-end experience of all our customers. We built like entire ecosystem that provides a lot of different services, starting with order taken, finishing with fintech services. And there, the full idea of that is to digitalize all relationships with our customers by providing all those services digitally. And third ecosystem, which is consumer cloud, that ecosystem is focused on providing services for end consumers. So people that go either to bars or restaurants or go to big retailers to consume our products. So the full idea is that we're building ecosystem to establish a direct commercial relationship, whether it's direct to consumer product or B2B2C product, in order to provide great experiences to those consumers, but also, of course, capture data on the consumers. And what is beauty of that strategy is because there is a power of connecting those, because Sunil already mentioned about the importance of getting access to data. In our case, of course, we need to ensure that we have visibility on end consumer data and customer data and internal data as well. And by connecting this data, we drive a lot of important decisions that I'm going to share later. So Sunil, if you go to the next slide, I'm just going to do a zoom in on ABI Cloud. So more than 7 years ago, we made a decision to choose Salesforce.com as a platform to build our entire ecosystem and build different capabilities on that ecosystem. And we started, like probably all companies do, with SFA product that actually enabled field execution for our sales reps. But then we immediately scaled that to our customer experience agents. It's like a kind of new telesales agents, but they are not doing order taking. They're really focusing on sales execution and the top line growth. Of course, we implemented B2B, and we use currently Community Cloud to provide extra services for our customers. Actually, we have central planning solution that takes all transactional data that is done by sales reps or customer experience agents or customers, And based on that data, and algorithms that we built, it helps us to prioritize what customers we need to visit or call, and what types of activities and opportunities we have for those customers. So there is a very important point, is that all those channels connected to one data lake that contains all this data, and that helps us to prioritize different activities, not based on the gut feelings of the salespeople, but now based on the real data. And of course, on the right side, you can see that we started adding products like trade promotion management to ensure that we do data-driven promotions. And I'll do a zoom in a couple of slides on TPM. We also built a contract management solution that helps us to manage better contracts. Also, we have algorithms that support our sales reps to make decisions on the right investments, on the right amounts. We have, of course, a reporting solution that helps sales teams to visualize how they reach KPIs. And last but not least, Marketing Cloud, because we are getting a lot of transactional data. For example, when it comes to B2B, Marketing Cloud is part of the proposal that whenever we capture data from customer, we actually do analysis of this data, and we know what types of promotions or activations to recommend to different customers, and we leverage Marketing Cloud to automatically send different ads or notifications to our customers. So in the end, we create automated loop of endless promo recommendations to support to do incremental net revenue growth. And again, there is like a full power of one platform, and since we have all these capabilities, those are just a couple of examples. We have more than 20 products that we built on that platform that are interconnected, and it gives us a speed to market, because whenever we build capability once for one channel like sales rep, you can immediately extend that to all other channels. Therefore, this one platform or one ecosystem plays critical role, because we can deliver value way faster to the market than if you would have a different platform integrated. And of course, everything is automated there. It's 100% integrated with SAP, 100% integrated with data lake, so all these processes are automated. So if you go to the next slide, I will do a zoom in TPM. Here, so what we've done, we actually started implementation of TPM product in a comprehensive way. We didn't only want to just put a tool that actually allows key account managers to simply enter promotions. No, we really did it comprehensively with end-to-end transformation, starting with review of all processes of 7 departments, because you always need to start implementation of any product with the end user experience. And if you really start with end user experience for key account management, for them, automation is very critical. So in case you just only implement TPM tool to ask them to enter promotions, it will not work, because it will require a lot of manual work. Also, there is demand planning department that needs to provide data. There are pricing conditions in SAP that someone needs to update. There is another data that might come from different sources. There is data from Nielsen, for example, or IRI. So if you ask key account manager to constantly extract data and upload manually, this will never fly. This will be a very unusable tool. And we actually did implementation of TPM several times in our company, and we failed just because we never focused on end user experience. So we took it comprehensively. Those are just some examples of what capabilities we've built, and we are still extending this TPM tool, but it's a quite comprehensive view. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just show you TPM in numbers as well. So we currently we did implementation in 3 countries in Europe, and we plan to scale it further. We, of course, cover our biggest channel in Europe, which is off-trade, that has the highest volume. Currently, we have more than 100 key account managers using that tool. As already mentioned, it's not only implementation of a digital product for key account manager. It's actually transformation of entire end-to-end process with 7 departments. It's also transformation of the way how sales reps do execution of the promotions in the field, because you remember I showed the SFA. So because TPM is fully integrated, whenever there are promos defined on the national level, they immediately get cascaded to account level, and sales reps have all these promotions in their calendars, in their SFA tool to execute. Demand planning, of course, because we did full integration with SAP APO system to automate a volume flow from APO to TPM. Also customer service center plays a very important role because they need to ensure that whenever there are promotions available for customers, they also see it in their customer experience tool. Revenue management, a big transformation for obvious reasons, CX I already mentioned. Of course, finance, because we not only transformed, let's say, the way how promotions are entered and how they work in the front end. We also did a full integration with the SAP system on the pricing conditions level. And also we are working on the proper accruals bookings in SAP finance module. So that helps a lot FP&A team or our finance team to manage accruals with high accuracy, and a center of excellence that actually responsible for entire end-to-end process. We have customer satisfaction. It's 7 out of 10. And just with full transparency, it was quite a journey for us to do such a big transformation for the business. And if you look currently at different types of users, so revenue managers and promo managers, they always score like 8, 9, and 10 out of 10. But when it comes to key account managers, they still require some further automation of the processes. So we see like a very big improvement happening on, let's say, support side, but still on execution, there is quite some work for us to do. But we are working on that. Full integration with SAP Master Data and Nielsen. I'll show you more details on the next slide. As already mentioned, demand promo forecasted. So demand planning does 100% forecasting through TPM tool at this moment. And of course, unfortunately, I couldn't share numbers because it's sensitive information, but we have quite a lot of promotions that we run per year. We also have a very big trade promo spend that we manage, and obviously business case is very simple on the optimization, because that's the entire purpose of the tool. And we are driving already significant benefits out of the tool. And this is just the beginning of our journey. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you TPM and data. So as I already mentioned, there is a power of automation. As I said, for key account managers, in order to have a full buy-in of the tool, we need to ensure that we provide a best-in-class digital experience for them. So therefore, automation is absolutely critical here. Automation with SAP on all types of pricing conditions, because we need to ensure that we provide entire view on P&L for them. So we need to bring and automate all pricing conditions and bring them to TPM. Nielsen data, and also automation of the data matching between Nielsen sellout and our internal sell-in data. And of course, for key account managers, they also enter quite some data. We just need to ensure that this data entered in the right way, and we provide quite some guidance inside the tool to support them to do. But again, the most important here is to ensure that there is a full automation that provides quite a good customer experience here. If you go to the next slide, I'm just gonna give you a couple of examples, because business case in fact starts on this slide. So of course you need to ensure that you do like a big transformation and you standardize processes. But business case starts whenever you start see data in the comprehensive way. And that's what we built. We use Power BI, and we built we integrate Power BI with our ABI cloud ecosystem on Salesforce, and we built different dashboards that helps to make right decisions for either by revenue management or promo management team or by key account management team. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring to show you dashboards. They're very nice because people use them on the daily basis right now, but it contains sensitive data, so I couldn't share that. But I'll try to explain here how those dashboards work. So first of all, it's promo P&L. So first time in the last many years, let's say we are able to show our key account managers or revenue managers entire promo P&L, and there we have different KPIs on this promo P&L that key account managers see and make decisions. And when it comes to promo KPIs, we give full visibility on, for example, promo sellout information, promo spend per hectoliter, net incremental chorus, promo ROI, and so on. So a key account manager can see all this data in a standardized way. And that never happened before, because before we had a lot of different Excel files, and it couldn't be consolidated because people couldn't bring a different source of data, like from SAP system to merge and so on. So here it's like in a very easy way, simplified and visualized for people to make right decisions. Another cool dashboard that we have is promo benchmark in absolute. So there we are actually showing either on the brand or retailer level ROI versus chorus per hectoliter. So like it actually helps also key account managers to observe again, like based on ROI and chorus per hectoliter, how different brands perform or how different retailers perform, and they can also make conclusions. What is also very interesting is that they can do it also year over year, and they can look at, for instance, they saw that a specific SKU underperformed in Q1 for different reasons, so they could make a decision to change promo mechanics, and they can actually see evolution quarter by quarter in the dashboard, how ROI and chorus per hectoliter getting improved. It's like a very nice way to visualize this data and to show whether people make right decisions or not, and correct. Another dashboard that we have is Pareto. It also helps to compare results. It shows, for example, trade promo spend and ROI, and people can track different SKUs or different even promo mechanics to see, for instance, what are outliers, what types of SKUs have, for example, a high trade spend and negative ROI, and they can see it in a very simple way, and they can do a drill down and check what's wrong with those SKUs. But again, on an operational level, that helps to make right decisions, and then of course at this moment manually to optimize trade promo spend, because we cannot go right now to trade promo optimization because we are still learning rules, and currently my team observing these rules in order to prepare proper algorithms to start doing automated optimization of that. And last but not least, we are putting training materials there, because it's a science. It's even though we visualize it in a very simple way, but of course we need to keep educating a lot our sales teams to explain what types of decisions they can make, and all these trainings, they're available immediately in the tool, and they can review and be educated, and then do a proper execution on TPM side. So Sunil, that's what I wanted to share on TPM. I think I'll probably over to you. So thank you. In case anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer. Unfortunately, we didn't have, I can talk like days and days about this topic because it's so exciting. It's so intellectually complicated, but we implemented a very interesting product that actually helps our business to solve current challenges on trade promo spend.
Okay, well, here we go. So James, here you are. I think that's all that, between me and Vital and Sunil, in a way, we wanted to share today, and very happy to go through a few questions. I don't know if you have some questions from the audience, or
Absolutely.
you want to ask, whatever.
Yeah, so Mark, thanks for that great presentation, and it's so nice to see the AB InBev story with sort of how it comes to life for a company. Just a reminder to everyone on the attendee side, if you have questions for Mark, you can submit those using the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen. We received a few questions during registration, so we'll start with those and let some other questions trickle in. So the first question that we received, what is the first step in a successful digital transformation for a company?
Sorry. It's proof that you shouldn't be drinking, even if it's water, and trying to speak at the same time. So I think that there are two ways of answering the question. The first one is making sure that you have a clear, vision of the end game, of where you want to land at the end. And we have a process internally that we call V2MOM, which we apply for how we manage our own business. Mark Benioff uses it to manage, the priorities of the company, and it's a one-pager document, stands for vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measurement. Sorry, but at the same time, there is also, for me, the very importance at the beginning to start with establishing, almost chartering the transformation and establishing some kind of a governance process. So what are you hoping to accomplish, and are you going to create both a governance team of all the stakeholders that need to be involved, as well as an executive sponsorship team of the people that need to sponsor that transformation? I like to create usually every 3 months a top to top or a executive review with senior executives, so that there is the team is not only empowered but also is held accountable by the leadership, and there is a constant check-in.
Great. So how do you see NFTs and cryptocurrency sort of impacting how CPG companies think about going to market? Like, is that something they should be considering now, or is that a little bit farther down the road?
I think I mentioned it, and I think that's more what's next. And some brands have started to embark on this. Think Adidas, for instance, has started to go, I think, quite smartly and successfully into the NFT world. To me, it's not really NFT. It's, as I mentioned before, it's this whole idea of Web3, which is going to transform, in a way, the way people engage in the digital world, not just as a place where they get information and also share their points of views, but also where they really build community and identity through that community, through the things that they own and that they can derive value from. And so I think it's still very or relatively early. I like to think, and I feel lucky about it, that I'm both late and early on this. I spent quite a bit of time on it to work on what's next. I think what's important is to at least get into it, try to understand it. And because I truly believe that the same way that you talk about non-fungible tokens, there is also the thinking of what I like to, think in my own head as non-fungible brands. How do you make a brand that participates in the Web3 world, but also that is basics of marketing, relevant and differentiated versus any other brand? And that's, to me, the definition of non-fungibility.
Great. So we got one question in from the audience. You shared 5 core tenets earlier that are part of the 360-degree engagement platform. From your perspective, which of those is the most important and why?
So as somebody who's been both a GM and a marketer in my career, but also who has spent a lot of time on brands and consumer centricity, I'd love to say, anything around, consumer experience. But the reality is, one of the main reasons I came to Salesforce, I'd come to a place where I realized that the marketer didn't really own the consumer anymore. That basically the C-suite owned all the touch points, and that you could do a great job in marketing or any of the functions. And if another function, did a bad job, then your whole, brand perception and trust was in disarray. I saw it firsthand, again, coming back to the Note 7 crisis. The marketing was great. The marketing for the Note 7 was one of the best marketing we've ever done. Unfortunately, the phone had a little quality defect. And so the reality is, certainly it shifted our priorities, and we realized that all the touch points, were critical. And so I've been really pushing for that. And the one thing that's common to all the touch points is yes, the consumer, but it's the data. And so I think that the number one most important priority is to look at where the data resides and how to build what we like to call a single source of truth that enables you to collect and harness, integrate, harmonize all the data, and then make it usable to the various departments, to the various functions, to the marketing function, using basically the data and AI in order to make it easily actionable. And I think that that's the number one thing, which, to be fair, throughout my career, I saw evolving drastically, because initially there was no data, and then there was, media data, but there was, data, the data that you owned, and now the data is kind of the new oil, and the ability, when you truly not just have data but insights and actionable insight, it's the best way to be cost effective and efficient, and it reduces your cost of, going to market significantly.
So thinking about digital, that's certainly top of mind for companies in the consumer brands membership. What are some of the most successful ways or most efficient ways that companies have transformed their business from sort of these offline places to a digital platform? What are the best practices that you've seen?
Yeah, and unfortunately, and again, I always like to look at people not just as experts, but also as individuals who have, experiences in their own life. And we've all seen the way, data native, digital native startups have not transformed themselves, but transformed our lives. And because they were born that way, but they truly transformed, the way we live. Think, be it an Uber or, which I had a bad Uber, not actually, I had a bad Lyft experience this morning and switched back to Uber. But anyway, long story, it was a one-off. But I feel that understanding, putting yourself in the mindset of a startup, and if needed, creating a pocket of isolation so that you're not trying to, saying you're trying to transform, but in reality, you're really only trying to adapt. And I think that transformation is hard, and legacy is the biggest challenge to transformation. So every time that I've seen brands that truly embrace the spirit of a transformation across all the elements of their marketing or sales platform, the better. I can take one example. Now, Adidas back 5 years ago, and I think they are now embarking in a new phase, with what they're doing within Web3, or starting to do. But Adidas, more than 5 years ago, decided to completely rethink their brand loyalty program. But they rethought the loyalty program, and the membership program. They rethought, their brand by creating the Creators Club. They rethought their consumer target by, again, looking at creators as their core priority. They rethought their promotions. They started to, even their distribution model, by having drops that they would drop on the internet only, initially on a periodic basis, and afterwards on a daily basis to micro communities. So I always said, was it a membership program? Was it a loyalty platform? Was it a distribution mechanism? Was it a new product innovation, a way of doing innovation? Because suddenly they took information from their customer to create new products. So to me, it's really this desire and willingness to transform, as opposed to pretend you're transforming. And they also had a very big goal. They said, we want, X million of people on our membership program and X billion of dollar in e-commerce revenue. And they did it. But they became serious about it. They put hundreds of people at it, and they stopped doing marketing or selling the way they did it. They completely created a new way.
It's super insightful. Thank you. So for those brands that are sort of not at the startup phase, but aren't at that sort of market leader place, when should they begin thinking about digital transformation? Like, should their focus be solely on growing their market share, or should they begin to sort of shift to thinking about innovating the business?
First of all, by now, if a brand has not done some form of, or business has not done some form of digital transformation, they're probably out of business. Because during the last 2 years, without any kind of digital, solutioning, a lot of business closed down, unfortunately. To me, it's less about where to start or what to prioritize than who to prioritize. I really think that digital transformation is just, an enabler of customer centricity, true customer centricity, putting customer in the middle and, serving people. I often say there is this almost misperception of customer lifetime value. A lot of marketers think that customer lifetime value is something they need to deliver to their CFO. It's kind of like, I'll show you my KPI, I'll show you I understand how every dollar invested is going to bring you so much money in return. That's their definition of customer lifetime value. My definition of customer lifetime value is a brand really adding value to the customer for today, tomorrow, and the rest of his life. That's what customer lifetime value should be. And I think that digital transformation should be at the service. How do you deliver content, not just product, but product, content, experiences, solutions, services, to customers and how do you keep them, lifetime on their brand by satisfying them, providing them something unique that they don't get anywhere. Products that are just products today, are very rare. It's the whole ecosystem, and on top of it, if you have that mindset, then you can sell much more the product, and that's where you go into a subscription-based model, and it creates a complete new business model. So I think that it's really this, mindset of customer and serving customers. When I was at Unilever, we changed the definition of target, and instead of calling people target groups, which always reminds me of the military, is you like your customers so much you want to shoot them. That's why you call them targets. And instead we call them the people we serve. And the idea of calling your target group the people you serve, to me, is a huge enabler of thinking, how do I change my my relationship to customers, and how can digital help that?
That's great. So I think we've got time for one last question. Excuse me. And I want to use it as an opportunity to sort of look forward. So how does Salesforce think about how the retail landscape has changed over the past 2 years, and the impact that has on consumer shopping behavior and the role of digital tools as we move to the future?
Yeah, the beauty is that we all know that it's a new reality, and we all know that we've adapted. But the things that we have, adapted most, I think, is the fact that today is different from yesterday, and tomorrow will be different from today. And you see that the psyche of people, is very different from all kinds of factors. It took the president of France by telling people that they needed to go vaccinated, because otherwise their sanitary pass wouldn't be valid anymore, and they couldn't go to the restaurant. It took that to get people to finally, get another shot, literally, at the booster shot. And so I think that people's psyche continues to evolve, and there is no movement back. So in that context, I feel that the most important thing we can do is, going back to those pillars of transformation, is build that data capability, build that digital operation, the ability to serve the customer, respond from anywhere, and to integrate the route to market, so that you do basically those 5 things, I would say, in your sleep. Because when change happens, and I pretty much believe that I'm not saying we're only at the beginning of COVID, but the reality is there will be new episodes that nobody predicts today, and we now know that digital is one of the key solutions to respond to that constant behavior change of customer, and so that's my I would say closing message is, let's hope for the best, but prepare for whatever. Mm-hmm. I think I've lost you, but
yep. No,
okay.
I think that's all we can do is plan for the future. So Marc, thank you again, and thank you to Salesforce for their partnership with the Consumer Brands Association. We look forward to sharing additional insights from Salesforce in future sessions and other initiatives. A reminder to those on the line, this Friday, December 10th, Consumer Brands will be hosting our final CPG Speak session of the year at 2 p.m. Please join us for insights from Linda Rendell, Chief Executive Officer, and Stacey Greer, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer, both of the Clorox Company, as they reflect on the past 2 years and look ahead to what the future holds. A link to register for the session is in the chat. And thank you again for everyone for joining us for today, and have a happy holiday season.
Thank you. Goodbye.